TraderJud here for week number 9 of the weekly charting series, where I go over 10 different Forex pairs, 3 time frames per pair: the weekly, the daily, and the 4-hour time frame. And the way that this works is I pick 5 pairs. I keep the 5 pairs that I pick consistent week to week. EU, UJ, Gold, EA, and GN are my 5 pairs. And then I take requests for the other 5 pairs that I do every week. This week's going to be GN, AU, GJ, EJ, UCAD, and GU. So let's go ahead and get started looking at EU. Last week's candlestick ended up as a slight hammer. Had some bearish movement. Retested this trend line that's drawn on the weekly time frame. But as you can see, looking at EU, it's been consolidating. It can't really decide which direction it wants to go, whether that's bullish or bearish. The one horizontal line is based off of market structure right here. That's the only horizontal line I have drawn. We can see that price has been respecting the 8 EMA, but that's it as far as EU goes on the weekly time frame. Let's go ahead and drop down to the daily. You'll notice that I did draw a consolidation box on the daily time frame. Added one trend line that's above price. So what we're looking for on the daily time frame is either a breakdown below this trend line and then a retest down to at least previous market structure, if not a break below that even, and continuation to the to the bearish side. If we do get a break of this trend line and a break out of this consolidation box, then we'll be looking for a retest of the weekly trend line above, or another retest of this weekly trend line, which is currently below where price is. If we get a break above this this weekly trend line right here, then we'll be looking for price to continue upward. Dropping down to the 4-hour time frame, there's a Gartley pattern on the 4-hour time frame. I added one more trend line that's based off of the B point of the Gartley. So what we're looking for right now, this is the weekly trend line. This is the new trend line that I have drawn. This is the trend line that was from the daily, and the weekly trend line is above where price is currently. Gartley pattern finishes right where previous market structure is, so that's convenient. However, if it does break this weekly trend line, if price does break this weekly trend line, I would anticipate this to continue to go bearish. So we might see some sort of retracement when the Gartley pattern finishes, and then a continuation downward is what I would expect. That's what I see with EU this week. We're just kind of waiting to see what price does with this weekly trend line, if it breaks it to the downside or if it respects it and continues upward. So yeah, that's what we're looking at this week. If you got any questions on EU, go ahead and shoot me a message. UJ is going to be next up. Let's get converted over. Alright, so with UJ this week, last week's candlestick on the weekly time frame retested the B point of this Gartley pattern on the weekly time frame. Remember that not last week's candlestick, but the previous week before that was a bullish engulfing pattern, or a bullish engulfing candlestick, also a reversal pattern. So we were expecting this to go bullish again this week, and it did, and retested the B point, which is what this horizontal line represents. Now this week is kind of interesting, because we could see, because it respected that B point, we could see a strong bearish engulfing candle this week, or if we don't, we'll see a retest of this trend line that was broken. So that's kind of what I'm expecting. We're going to wait on lower time frames for confirmation, but if we see confirmation of this trend, or of this horizontal line being broken, then we're looking for a retest of this trend line up here, which we'll be able to see better on these time frames. Alright, so just what I was saying, this horizontal line, I believe, it's based off of this point right here. I know it doesn't go over far enough, but that's what it's based off of. It's based off of a candlestick right here. So that zone, that's what it's based off of. You can see it's been respected multiple times. But this is the same horizontal line based off of the B pattern. So we can see that there was a clear rejection on Friday. Thursday was engulfing. Wednesday was strong bullish as well. Tuesday was very strong bullish engulfing. So we had a lot of bullish movement to start the week out and almost end the week out. Friday ending bearish right on that previous market structure. And so we're waiting to see if price goes up above this horizontal line, which if it does, I do expect it to retest that before continuing up and retesting this weekly trend line. If it respects this horizontal line and continues downward, it's going to hit this zone, and then you just kind of got to wait to see what it does on this zone, whether it's going to bounce off of that zone and come back and retest this horizontal line, or if it's going to break below it, which is what this is representing right here, and that would more than likely complete the Gartley pattern that is drawn. So dropping down to the 4-hour time frame, those of you that don't know, I do majority of my entries on the 4-hour time frame, and then I just keep up with what's going on the daily or the weekly. Weekly I honestly just use to look at the previous week's strength, whether it was bullish, whether it was bearish, whether it didn't commit either way, and where it is on the larger scheme of things. So I don't trade based off of the weekly time frame. I use that just for being better aware of what's going on the larger time frames, so that I don't make bad decisions because I can't see it on the smaller time frames. That being said, UJ on the 4-hour time frame, I've added a trend line right here, and I've also added this horizontal ray down at the bottom, just representing market structure. So if we do look at market structure on the 4-hour time frame, this has gone bullish as far as market structure goes. However, as you can see, this is bearish market structure on larger time frames. It's quite obvious on this on the daily that it's bearish going into this, and it hasn't exactly transitioned outside of that yet. I will be looking closely for that horizontal line to be broken with UJ before buying it. And so it looks like we had the double top on that horizontal line, and then we've had bearish movement. The EMAs have not crossed yet. We don't have a break of this trend line, so I'm not selling this as of yet. If you did get in on the double top of this horizontal line right here for the sell, then you have a really good entry, and that's something that you can hang on to. Just be aware of when price gets down to this trend line that you're looking for a break of that trend line. If you do get a break and retest, that's a good possibility to re-enter right there. And your stop loss should be relatively tight, maybe above these levels right here. And that's what I'd be doing for the 4-hour time frame. The 107.5 is a quarter point as well, which is price just barely tapped that before going down. It's something else to be aware of. The next quarter point, 110, way up here. So yeah, that's what I see with UJ this week. Definitely something to keep an eye on. UJ and EU are both pretty interesting this week, so I'm keeping an eye on both of them pretty closely. Moving on to gold now. Get all these switched over. You'll notice that this week I'm just going to record everything on TradingView, and I'm going to do it all in one take instead of recording each pair individually. So it'll take a little bit longer to switch over, but I think I'll be able to flow better, and it'll be better editing wise without as many cuts as I've been doing. But looking at gold, last week's candlestick was this kind of rejection. It closed slightly bullish. Didn't have a whole lot of strength to the bullish side, and it did have quite a large wick above it. You'll notice that I have this consolidation box drawn on the weekly time frame. We're waiting for price to break out of this. There is this trend line, and this trend line, as well as this horizontal line that's representing market structure to the left. There is a butterfly pattern that is still valid and needs to be completed above where previous market structure is. So we're just waiting for price to break out of this consolidation area right now. Looking at the daily time frame, I've added another trend line. So we're waiting for a trend line break in either direction. If it goes bullish, there is a zone. The zone is based off of this candlestick right here. So if it does go bullish, that's the zone that I have drawn above. We want price to break out of that zone as well, because that zone is not very far above where the break in the retest of this trend line is. However, if it does break to the downside, then we'll be looking for a retest and then riding it down to this trend line down here. And then dropping down to the 4-hour time frame, a lot of the same. It is the same. So I added in this horizontal line on the 4-hour time frame that just shows the bottom of the consolidation zone. Same trend line as the daily right here, and so we're waiting for price to commit to breaking out of either side of this. And you'll notice that I did take away the zone because that zone would have been very large on the 4-hour time frame, and so there is this horizontal line there instead. But yeah, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for price to commit to breaking out of either the top or the bottom of these trend lines, with previous market structure being the bottom of this horizontal line, and then previous market structure also being the top of this horizontal line right here. So be patient with gold. I do expect USD pairs to move quite a bit this week because all of them are pretty well primed and ready to break out of their, well, at least EU, UJ, and gold are all three primed to break out of their consolidation. And so I'm expecting that to happen this week. It may not. We might not get a breakout. So that's why I'm not in any three of those pairs right now as far as trades go. I'm waiting for clear-cut confirmation in either direction before I get into those. EA is going to be next. Looking at EA, we have almost completed this bat pattern. Very, very close. Last week's candlestick was this slightly bearish hammer looking candlestick, with the previous candlestick before that being a lopsided doji, and so this is still very bullish on the weekly time frame. We could get a retest of the 8 EMA before continuing upward, or even a retest of this trend line down here before continuing upward and completing the bat pattern. Dropping down to the daily time frame, I've added a trend line, and I've also added these horizontal rays to signify market structure, which is if this if this trend line is broken, that's what we'll be looking at, is a retest of previous market structure, or a retest of this trend line over here, which is drawn before completing the bat pattern, which is represented by this horizontal line up here. Price did get very close to completing it, but it did not complete. Dropping down to the 4-hour time frame, this trend line right here is the same one that I drew on the daily. I've added this trend line as well, which price opened up right, or well, price is currently sitting right on that trend line. Let's readjust this so we can see it a little bit better. So you can see price is currently sitting right on that trend line. If we do get a break of that trend line, then we'll be looking for the completion of the bat pattern, which is this horizontal line right here. I'm not dumb to the fact that if it breaks this horizontal level significantly and comes back down and retests it, then we'll be looking for more bullish momentum. And if you want to be really safe on if you're trading the completion of the pattern, then you also be waiting for the break of this trend line down here before selling. These horizontal lines just represent previous market structure. I don't think that they were in the previous charts. I believe I took those out. Yep. But on here they're relevant, so that's where price will probably slow down if it does break to the downside. But right now what we're waiting for is either a break of this trend line or a break of this trend line to complete the bat pattern, one or the other. So that's what we're looking at with EA this week. Moving on to GN. GN. I'm going to always start on the weekly time frame and work my way down. GN last week was a doji. No significant movement to the upside or the downside. So we're waiting on what I think is going to be a continuation of the bullish side. Now we may get a retest of this trend line before continuing bullish, but we should be working towards the completion of the bat pattern. So we're waiting on. We want to see a break of, well, I guess a continuation of structure. We want to see this level over here broken. This 1.984 level broken to the upside for continuation of this bullish movement that we've got going on right here. You can see that this horizontal line has been respected many of times. But yeah, so last week's candlestick, nothing really significant. It's a doji. Neither the buyers or the sellers won last week. Looking at the daily time frame, We have this trend line drawn, which is just a simple trend line. This is the same horizontal line that I was talking about earlier. So this is the horizontal line that was broken a couple of weeks ago. And so what we're looking for specifically is, and I think, let's see here, did I add that? Yeah, that's the same. That's a weekly trend line, that's a weekly trend line, and that's a weekly trend line. This is the daily trend line right here. And so what we're looking for is a breakout of either side of this. If it does break out of this weekly trend line right here, we're looking for possibly a retest of the B level, which is, as I said, it's been respected many a times. If we do get a retest of that B level, then we'll probably see some more bullish movement. If we get a break and a retest of this level, then we'll be looking for a bearish movement down to this trend line down here. However, if we do go bearish this week, which would be a breakout of this trend line to the upside, then we'll be looking for a retest and then just a continuation upward. There is not much market structure over here. In fact, this would be the next level, somewhere around the 2.02, excuse me, 2.02, 2.01, somewhere in that vicinity. It would be the next market structure level, which is represented by that arrow right in the middle. And then the completion of the bat pattern starts. It's a rather large zone that the bat pattern can complete in, but it is up there. Looking at the 4-hour time frame, these horizontal lines tell a much better story. These are all based on previous market structure. You can see that we got a rejection of this double top over here. So it looks like we could see a chance for this to go bearish, maybe retesting this trend line down here or retesting this horizontal line, which is based off of these points that have been respected. So that's what these arrows are representing. If we do get a break of this horizontal line, then we'll be looking for a retest of this. If this breaks, then we'll be going down here. And if it goes bullish, then we're looking for a break of this horizontal line, a retest, and then continuation upward, and a break of the previous market structure which would be this point right here. So GN has options right now. I could see it going either direction, so I'm probably going to stay away until GN gives me a clear-cut direction that it wants to move. Moving on to AU next. AU candlestick last week was bearish again. We had the strong bearish engulfing candle from a month ago, and then we've had these little baby bearish candlesticks ever since then, with wicks to the upside and wicks to the downside. This trend line is just based off of this point right here. Market structure on the weekly time frame is still up, right? We still have bullish momentum going upward. However, we did have this huge bearish crash over here. So that's something to be aware of. But last week's candlestick was not strong. We probably will get a retest of this trend line before continuing upward, if not a break of that before going downward. Looking at the daily time frame, go ahead and zoom in here a little bit. I added this this trend line, which you'll see better on the 4-hour time frame, as well as this horizontal line, which is based off of previous market structure over here, and this horizontal line also based off of previous market structure. Excuse me. What we're looking for is either it to break this trend line that's drawn right here and continue down to retest this trend line, which is the weekly trend line, or if it's going to go bullish, we're looking for either a retest or a break of this trend line right here, possibly a retest of this horizontal line, which, like I said, is previous market structure. If we get a break above this this horizontal line right here, then we'll be looking for a retest and then continuation upward to the weekly trend line, which is this one. Looking at the 4-hour time frame, there is a bat pattern that is valid. As long as this trend line does not get broken, it'll stay valid. If this trend line does get broken, then this bat pattern becomes invalid, so that's something to be aware of. On the 4-hour time frame, AU is bearish. So on the weekly time frame, the structure is bullish. On the 4-hour time frame, structure is bearish, so that's something to be aware of. Long term is bullish, short term is bearish. So we're looking for either a completion of this bat pattern before possibly retesting this trend line. The bat pattern does complete right around that horizontal line, which I told you guys is based off of previous market structure, so that's interesting. That's the reason why I included it. It is a relatively small pattern, though, not significant in size. But that doesn't mean it's not going to complete or any less likely to complete. So that's what we're looking for right now. We're looking for price to either respect this trend line and continue upward to retest this trend line and or this horizontal line that's drawn, or break below this trend line, retest, and then come down and touch this trend line, and we'll react to whatever happens to the retest of this trend line, whether it breaks and then continues downward or whether it respects it and goes bullish. So that's what I see with AU this week. Let's go ahead and move on to GJ will be next. GJ last week, this pair keeps irritating me because I keep every week, I think I've called it bearish because it kept respecting this trend line on the weekly time frame. Of course, last week it did not. It broke above this trend line last week, which is not what I was expecting. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this trend line so you can see it better. It did break above this this trend line this week. The EMAs are right over top of one another, which signifies that we could be getting bullish movement. You can see the past few weeks candlesticks have not been significant in size, but last week's candlestick was a little bit more significant, not nearly the amount of wick on the upside that we saw. However, not to sound like not to cry wolf, if you will, because the past few weeks I've called this bearish every week and I've been wrong every week, is that usually when we see an engulfing candlestick over a trend line, we always have to be aware of the next week being engulfing in the opposite direction. That's still a rejection. It's just showing a rejection in two candlesticks instead of in one. I'm not going to call this bullish or bearish based off of the weekly time frame. I'm just going to make you aware that next week could potentially be bearish engulfing, and I would not be surprised by that. It could, however, continue to go bullish and possibly retest this trend line it's drawn. Let's go ahead and drop down to the weekly time frame. The reason why I'm saying, another reason why I guess I should say that I'm saying that we could see some sort of bearish engulfing candle is if we draw a Fibonacci retracement, we'll see that price on Friday rejected the 50 Fibonacci level. And so I don't add Fibonacci retracement very often in my videos because it makes the charts look messy, if you will. It's hard to see the candlesticks when you have too much stuff going on, and so I tend not to put these in because I don't like to have too much clutter on the charts, because then it's hard for people to understand what I'm looking at. Where I might understand it myself, it's much harder for other people to understand what I'm looking at. And so but this is a significant reason to add it, and so we do have that clear rejection of the 50 Fibonacci level. These arrows signify where price could go, right? So we do have, this is the weekly trend line. We do have price clearly above the weekly trend line. You'll notice that the EMAs have been relatively close, and now they're starting to spread because price has gone bullish. I think every day except for Monday. Monday was slightly bearish, and then every day after that was bullish. And so we have this trend line. This trend line's been drawn for a while now on my charts, as well as the weekly trend line here and here, the weekly trend line that's above and below where price is. And so the arrows signify just breaks in either Fibonacci levels to the upside or a break and a retest of the lower trend line, which I'm going to call the daily trend line. Dropping down to the 4-hour time frame, we can see much clearer now the 50 Fibonacci level being broken, or being respected and rejected, rather. So same trend line, same concept as the daily time frame. We're either looking for a retest of this trend line, a break and retest of this trend line to the downside, or continuing upward to one of these Fibonacci levels, if not this trend line up here. But that's what I see with GJ this week. GJ has consistently proven me wrong week in and week out. Call GJ bearish every week, and it's continuously gone bullish. Market structure is bullish on smaller time frames on GJ, and on larger time frames for that matter. Weekly we can see is also bullish. So I'm not buying GJ. I'm not selling GJ. I'm waiting for confirmation to sell. And I will not buy GJ until this trend line up here is broken and I have clear cut reason to buy it. And right now I just don't. So that's GJ for this week. Let's move on to EJ, EURJPY. EJ's candlestick last week ended slightly bullish. It's sitting right on the 8 EMA that I have on my chart. The crab pattern is still a significant ways away, so I'm not going to talk about that, but it's still there. So EJ this week, not really an interesting level. We do have all of this rejections right here, which is where price is currently, well, price is pretty close to. Price has been rejecting those levels, so it looks like we're just getting rejections of previous market structure on the lower time frames, which let's go ahead and drop down. You can see it easier on the daily time frame. Dropping down to the daily time frame, EJ, these are the rejections that I was referring to on the previous on the weekly time frame rather. So we can see all of these rejections to these same levels. If we're going to sell, we're going to wait for this trend line to break before selling down to the next horizontal line. If we do get a break above this horizontal line and a retest, then we'll be buying to this next horizontal line, which is based off of market structure. You'll notice that I do like market structure a lot. Market structure helps you just see past the BS that the market is trying to manipulate people with, and so you can't get caught up in the in the one day. You got to look at the big picture, which market structure is the big picture for me. But dropping down to the 4-hour time frame so we can see this a little bit better. You can see all of this rejection right here, rejection, and finally broke through, rejection. So we're waiting to see if this is going to go bearish or bullish based on the rejection of this horizontal line. If we do get a break of this trend line right here and a retest, I will be selling this. If we get a break and a retest to the upside, I should be buying this. I want pretty significant bullish momentum before I'm buying this, but that is still an option for me. So that's what I see for EJ this week. We're moving on to UCAD next. Alright. UCAD candlestick last week was bearish. Pretty sizable bearish candlestick. It broke this this bullish controlling candle that we had right here. This horizontal line is based off of market structure over here. That's what we see with UCAD's candlestick from last week. Dropping down to the daily time frame. You can see we had pretty significant bearish movement. This very strong bearish engulfing candle followed by two more bearish candles. And Friday did end with a bullish engulfing candle, however it was not very strong. You'll notice that I have two horizontal lines drawn. Those are all based off of the consolidation area right here that we have. And I also have this ray drawn that's kind of hard to see because it's right where price is at. So it kind of looks like the price line, but it's not. It's a ray that I have drawn from right here, which is also based off of market structure. And so what we're waiting for with UCAD is either confirmation to the upside or the downside. I will not be buying or selling UCAD until it reaches one of the horizontal lines, either to the upside or the downside, and either reacts off of it or breaks and retests it and then continues in the direction that it broke. Looking at the 4-hour time frame for UCAD, UCAD has a bat pattern. I added this zone. It's based off of this candlestick right here, which price is currently rejected multiple times. So price has a little bit of stuff to go through before it reaches the horizontal line to the downside. Let's see. I think I took away the horizontal line to the upside. We can add it back in for this purpose. So there's the horizontal line, excuse me, to the upside, which you can see the significance of both. This is a consolidation area that I was talking about earlier. So yeah, that's what I'm waiting for with UCAD. If we do get a break of this trend line, you can buy off of the break and the retest of that trend line. If you get a rejection to the downside, you could sell off of the rejection of that trend line. And then if we do get a break of this trend, or excuse me, of this horizontal line down here, then we can get in on the completion of the bat pattern. We're just waiting to see what UCAD is going to do this week. And last but not least, moving on to pair number 10. It's going to be GU this week. You'll notice that all of my pairs this week are almost all the same. The only one that's different is pair number 10. Last week it was AN. This week it's going to be GU. Looking at GU, there's a bat pattern on the weekly time frame. The horizontal. There's 3 trend lines drawn. One above where price is and 2 below where price is. Last week's candlestick was bullish, but only slightly bullish. However, it did retest the 8 EMA and rejected off of that. So we can use that as a moving support and resistance if you'd like. Dropping down to the daily time frame. Friday's candlestick was bullish engulfing, pretty significant bullish engulfing candle. So with this trend line drawn right here, the one that I added on the daily time frame, and this trend line above, which is a weekly trend line that I have drawn, price is pretty well captured right now. We're just waiting to see where price is going to break out of, whether it's going to break out of the top or the bottom. Looking at the 4-hour time frame, a lot of the same. I didn't add too much to this. It's just a better look at it, if you will. You'll see that this did break out a little bit, but then had a huge rejection. That's the reason why I did not move the trend line. However, you could readjust this weekly trend line if you'd like. I did not. Same trend line down here. Same thing with the 4-hour time frame. We're looking for either confirmation of breaking out of the top, retesting, and then continuing upward, or break and retest of this trend line down below. If you do prefer trading the 4-hour time frame, then you can trade the rejection off of either one of these trend lines if you'd like. That's not necessary. If you like trading longer term trades, then you're waiting for a break out of this trend line or this one, whichever one comes first. So that's my 10 pairs for this week. If you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to send me a message on Telegram. My contact information will be in the description down below. If you want to recommend a pair for next week, drop a comment in the comment section. Send me a message on Telegram. I respond to everybody that messages me about anything. So yeah, and also I know that last week in the announcement video I said that I was going to be doing a cryptocurrency video last week. I did record a cryptocurrency video last week as more of a rough draft, just to get a better feel for how I was going to do it, which was, in all honesty, led me to the way that I recorded this video today. And so there will be a video on cryptocurrencies this week. It'll be on Wednesday. It will be posted. I'll be doing the charting Wednesday morning. I will post a video late morning on Wednesday, early afternoon on Wednesday, one of those two, somewhere around the noon time frame. So be on the lookout for that. I'm also, as soon as I get done recording this, I'm going to also record a video starting the indicators 101, introduction into indicators and what each indicator does and why it's significant, how it works, why you should use it, why you shouldn't use it, what you should use it for, above and beyond anything that I've ever seen or gone into. That's something to be looking for. Those 2 videos are going to drop this week, and so yeah, be on the lookout for that. If you have any requests for any other content, anything that you want to see, just let me know. Send me a message, drop a comment in the comment section down below. I am wanting to bring all the content that you guys want to see and forget about the content that you guys could care less about. So that being said, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go eat dinner, and then I'll be back to record the first indicator video this evening. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate everybody supporting the channel. It's hard to believe that this is already week number 9 of doing this. It does not seem like it's been that long. So I appreciate all the support. I appreciate everybody watching the videos and liking the videos, subscribing to the channel, and as we get more subscribers, as I keep saying, we'll be doing giveaways and so on and so forth. So again, thanks for all of your support. Thanks for watching the videos, and I'm out.